Okay, so this video will help you with your recodes for Lab 7. So first we're going to work on the spanking variable. So we're going to go ahead and try to find the spanking variable first. And there it is. Lucky us, the variable is called spanking. So whenever you recode a variable, you always look at it first. So we're going to go ahead and run a frequency of spanking. So I'm going to go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and Frequencies. And I'm going to ask for, I'm going to right click and change this to the names so I can actually just start typing in the name, S-P-A-N-K. Should be right in this area. So if you start typing the name in, it'll just take you to that point in the list a little quicker. While we're at it, we're going to look at the sex variable too. So I just started typing in sex. Let's put that in the queue. And I'm going to type in, once my cursor's in that box, fund. There's the fundamentalist variable too. So let's look at all three of these at once, just to be convenient. So here they are. So first, we have the spanking variable, strongly agree, agree, disagree, strongly disagree, and a total. And you notice we have inapplicable, don't know, and not applicable set aside as missing. Then we have the sex variable, which shows you, just male, female. There actually is no missing data on that. And then the fundamentalist variable, which is fundamentalist, moderate, or liberal. And they just have not applicable there. Okay. So the other thing we need to do is just make sure we know all the value labels. So I go ahead and click on the invisible blue box at the end of the field inside values. And I know now that I need to take care of the zeros, make sure that gets set to missing, 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, the don't knows, and the not applicables, the 8s and 9s. Okay, so I'm going to make my plan. So whenever we recode a variable, we make this plan where we have the old value on the left and the new value on the right. So this way I keep track of what I'm doing before I get into the menu. So 0 of inapplicable is the old value in the spanking variable. We're going to set that to missing as a new value. A 1 indicating strongly agree, we will set to a 1 is the new value because we want to make that something we're counting. A 2 of agree in the old value is going to be set also to a 1 because we just want to know whether they agree, they favor spanking versus they don't favor spanking. So strongly agree and agree are both going to be 1s. Then our 3s and 4s, the disagree and strongly disagree, those are going to be set to 0s. So it's kind of a I agree with spanking, I don't agree with spanking. So we're kind of collapsing these categories down a little bit. And then our 8s and 9s, the don't knows and not applicables, will also be set as missing data. And then anything else, system or user missing, which are things like blanks or non-response, will also be missing. So it's always a good idea to kind of write out or type out some kind of plan, a coding scheme like this. So right when you're in the middle of the variable and you can't remember all the pieces, you can go look at your plan and just make sure you don't forget anything. So let's recode. I'm going to go in the transform menu, recode into different variable. I'm going to go ahead and right click and change this to display the name rather than the label. I'm going to type in a quick SP to take me to the S section of the list. There's my spanking variable. I'm going to put it in my queue. And I'm going to call this spanking underscore recoded. And I'm just going to copy and paste this and stick the same thing in the label. Whoops. We don't have to be too fancy about it. All right. Now we're going to go to old and new values. And we're going to work our plan. So a 0, which meant inapplicable, in the old value is going to be treated as system missing in the new value. Answer of 1 will be treated as a 1. A response of 2, whoops, it's kind of stuck there. There we go. A response of 2 is also going to be treated as a 1. So the 1s and the 2s, those are our agreement categories. You could also do it this way if you wanted to. You could hit range and put 1 through 2. We're going to do 3 through 4 now. Those are our disagrees. Okay, so there's more than one way. You can go value to value or range to value. Doesn't matter. It creates the same thing. So that's going to say 3 through 4 is going to be a 0. This is the same as saying 3 is 0, 4 is 0, same thing. And then we're going to do 8 through 9. We'll just keep using through because it lets us take care of both of those at once and set those to system missing. So that should take care of all our values. Let's go ahead and check our coding scheme, make sure we got everything. Looks like we didn't quite do this last one, the system or user missing. So let's go back to SPSS, system or user missing, make it missing. Okay, so now we have our plan in there. It's fully correct. We'll hit continue. And then we hit change. And then we click OK. And all you get is some script that says, hey, I built this variable for you. And that's it. You always have to run a frequency to check it. So I always like to go to Analyze. And you can do it from the Output menu, by the way. Analyze, descriptives, frequencies, and I'm going to ask for, I'm going to put these other 2 back. SPSS always saves the last thing you did, just for convenience. Scroll all the way down. We should find our new spanking recoded variable at the bottom, and I'm going to put it side by side with the original so I can check them. Because you always check and make sure that you did it right before you analyze it. It'll save you a lot of time. It feels a little tedious, but a little bit of time spent up front saves you a lot of time on the back, and it keeps you from having to redo it. Okay, so looks like from the original variable, we had 342 strongly agrees, 608 agrees, okay, which those 2 added together equal 950. We had in the original variable 280 disagrees and 78 strongly disagrees, and those added together equal 358. So now we know that they did it right, and then everything else should be missing data. We should have the same total, 2023, we have the same total up here, 715 missing data, 715 missing data. So we know this is a correct variable now. Now if we need to, we can go back in and label it. Okay, sometimes I get a little lazy and I don't label my variables. But you should, because you're going to use variables for all kinds of things, and you want to remember what everything means. So you go in that values label column, go to 1, and you can call it favor spanking, and hit add. You can do the next one, 0, not favor spanking. So that way, if you ever have to do anything else with this variable, you know what everything means. And then click OK. So that variable is done. Now let's work on the sex variable. So if we go, I'm going to put my cursor in the name column and do a Control F, kind of a little find or a search. And I'm going to search for the sex variable, SEX, and hit OK. Teen sex, nope, we don't want that. XMAR sex, nope. XMAR sex 1, nope. So we're going to keep hitting find next. Acquaintance sex, well, that's a fun variable. We're going to keep hitting next until it takes us to the variable we want, just plain old SEX, which is the gender variable. Paid sex. Again, very interesting variables in this data set, right? There it is, SEX. Okay, so this is what is essentially the respondent's sex or their gender. So we just want to remind ourselves what's in this variable. So I'm going to click on the values on that line. 1 is male, 2 is female. And there actually is no missing data on here, so it's pretty easy to recode. So we know which is which. We're going to be just fine. It's a really simple variable, so I'm not going to bother to do a coding scheme like we did before, because we just don't have that much to keep track of. So we're going to go ahead and plunge into the recode. So I'm going to go to transform, recode into different, and it saves the last thing I did. I don't want that anymore. I'm going to put it all back. And now I'm going to type in sex. I'll find that variable. That's what I want to work on. I'm going to call this sex recoded. And I'll go ahead and just copy that and use that in the label field. Now we're going to do old and new values. So in here, the value of 1, which is male, we're going to change it to, oh, you know what? It saves all our old coding scheme too. Let's go ahead and remove all of that. Get that out of there. We really don't want any of that. Okay. So the value of 1, which would originally be male, we're going to change to a value of 0. So remember, a 0 is totally different than missing data. A 0 is still being counted. We're actually counting the zeros. Missing data means it's not being counted at all. It's gone. It's totally set aside from the variable. But it's easy to confuse a 0 and a missing because it feels like it's indicating the same thing, even though it's really not. It's just zeros and ones are basically saying count these guys but not these guys. But they're still being counted. If you put them as missing, then they're not even being counted at all. Okay, the 2's are now going to be a 1. Click add, and then we're going to add that famous system or user missing, just in case there are any blanks, into missing. Click continue, and then hit change, and click OK. And again, it says, look, I did this for you. And you go, great. I want to see the frequency. So we're going to go to Analyze, Descriptives, Frequency, and we're just going to check our variable real quick. It just takes a few seconds to do. We'll put our spanking variables back. We'll scroll up a little bit. Let's find our original sex variable, put it in the queue. Scroll all the way down, we'll find the recoded one we did. And like I said, I really like to put, whoops, there it is. I like to put the original next to the one I built so I can check it. Okay, so here are the variables. So we had 900 and, whoops, where's my output? There it is. I had 930 males, and I had 1,093 females. I should still have the same number of males and females. They're just going to get a different code. Yep, so I have the same numbers. So I know I did that right. All I'm doing in the recode is just reorganizing the data, and I'm telling SPSS to count it differently, but the same people are still in there. It's just going to treat it a little bit differently in the analysis. But it still has all the same people in it. They're just being treated a little different. That's it. So again, we could go back and say 0 is male, 1 is female and stuff. We're not going to do that now. We're actually just going to plunge right into the regression. So let's go ahead and do that. You can do that from the output. Analyze, regression, linear. Okay, so we're going to put all these in here. I'm going to flip, again using the right click, and flip these to the names instead of the labels. I'm going to type in edu so I can find my education variable easier. Pop that into dependent. And now I should be able to find my recoded variables down here. Spanking, sex. Oh, we didn't do the fundamentalist variable yet, did we? We didn't. We need to do that. That way you can see your output. Sorry. Let me go ahead and we'll find fund. That's the last one we didn't do. So I'm going to put my cursor in the name field, type in fund, and find it. Should take us pretty close to it. There it is. So it's row number 223. How fundamentalist is the respondent currently? Let's check those values. So I clicked the value field. Inapplicable, fundamentalist, moderate, liberal, don't know, not applicable, and excluded. Okay, so again, this is where a coding scheme would come in handy. Okay, now you already have this variable right, but I'm going to quickly recode it just to make sure I'm on the same page as you. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. And I'm going to go to transform. And we're going to recode into different. Put back the sex variable we finished. Go grab the fund variable that we need to do. And if you need to fast forward, you can. If you've already done this variable, that's fine. I'm just going to paste it in there. Old and new values. So a 1 is a fundamentalist. I still want that to be a 1. I'm going to hit add. Oh, I need to take care of the old stuff. I can leave that system and missing data stuff in there because I'm going to reuse that again anyway. So I'm going to put the 1s in there. And then I'm going to do, it's a little slow tonight. And then I'm going to do a range 2 through 3. Those are my liberals and my moderates. And I'm going to make them a 0. So I'm comparing the fundamentalists against everybody else. And I also need to deal with the inapplicable people and make them system missing. And they were a 0. Now they're going to be system missing. And then I think we have 8s and 9s to deal with. And that also needs to be system missing. Okay, so once we have all that in there, we should be good to go. Click continue, change, and OK. All right, so I'm not going to check this variable. I'm going to kind of skip that step. Let's go to the regression. So we're going to go to analyze. Whoops, kind of starts flipping on me a little bit. And we're going to go to regression, linear. We'll put the education variable as the dependent. And then we'll do all our recoded variables down here. Spanking, sex, and fundamentalists. And you can highlight them all and pop them all into this independent list at once. Then in statistics, you can click on that. We're going to ask for descriptives and then click continue. Everything else stays the same. Click OK. And now we get some regression output. Okay. So we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. There's the R squared of 0.030, which is what we want. You always get an ANOVA with a linear regression. We kind of don't use it a whole lot, but those are the exact coefficients we want. So you want a constant of 13.877. Spanking is going to be negative 0.529. Sex is going to be 0.206. Fund is going to be negative 0.928. And you can see that the spanking variable is significant and the fund variable is also significant, but the sex variable is not. Okay, we like really low, close to 0 numbers over here. That tells us that there's very little chance we're wrong, meaning we're very likely to be right. Okay, but if it's a larger number than a 0.000, like this 0.231, then we can't rule out chance that it's really true. That's how significance works. Okay, so that is the correct output, and now your job is to interpret it. So now you have everything you need to do your write-up, and hopefully this helped. Good luck.